My name is Pedro Kertzman. Hopefully, after this talk, the idea of this talk actually was to bring some of the knowledge we have across our panelists from a CTI standpoint. How can that be used on your environments, on your day-to-day work to make things more secure for your either employers or whatever kind of environment you're protecting. I also have a CTI podcast, so you might think I, like the topic a little bit. But I'll have the panelists also introducing themselves and then talking on their perspective, what's the importance they think CTI can bring to security teams in general. You have a microphone? Yeah. Okay, so, and then you can go to the next one.
My name is Chris Scutchings. I am the team lead of cybersecurity operations at the City of Calgary.
My name is Alyssa Hartford. I'm an information security officer by title, but a CTI analyst for the government of Alberta under Cyber Alberta.
My name is Prashant. I'm a senior cybersecurity advisor with Enbridge, and I'm a geek at heart.
So, thanks, everybody. So, Chris, I think we're going to go run through the panelists, but important to mention that after we do this quick kind of a warm-up, we're going to open up to the public, so get your CTI questions ready. It's MIA, so you can ask anything related to CTI. We're going to try our best to get you the best possible answer. So, Chris, you want to share your thoughts around the value of CTI for your organization?
For sure. So I took over the team about 3-4 years now, and we didn't really have a formalized threat intelligence program in place. Of course, our tools and stuff got threat intelligence feeds and stuff like that, but really we wanted to mature that program. So we stepped back and looked at what the problems we want to solve. And the first ones we wanted to really look at were first start externally facing. Whoever has a boss here, and you get that good old, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Hey, I heard this on the news. Are we actually impacted? And of course, you have to go into the team. They have to drop everything that they're doing now, and suddenly let's doing task switching, and then trying to build this report to provide up to our leadership. They go, hey, yes, we're impacted, or no, we're not impacted. And actually, the vast majority, no, this doesn't even impact us at all. It doesn't make any sense. So we started off by actually increasing capacity in the sense of we started collecting news feeds and building reports and getting them up to our leaders before they ever even came to us. That really freed up a time for my team to actually focus on the more critical things like that. And that was because the leaders started to trust that we were actually looking at things and being able to trust that our organization has trying to do the best to protect us. From a more tactical level, how many times is we're actually running a program, you actually spend a lot of effort on things that may not ever impact you. Your team is putting in indicators of compromise into systems. They're looking at threats that are just sort of more generic, and actually they won't actually ever impact you. So being able to understand the threats that you're facing also allows your team to be much more focused on the threats that you could face. A good example, a lot of threats that are coming out today are things like crypto stealers. Well, the City of Calgary doesn't produce, store, or do anything with crypto. So yes, we may want our tools to protect us from the general techniques that are being used by them, but we're not really worried about the actual impact from a crypto stealer because we have no crypto assets. So again, that's really spending time to focus on that. So really it's both, again, I look at it from both a strategic level, going up to our leaders and stuff like that, for that they're informed, they're trusting us, as well as enforcing it down internally from a tactical level to allow our teams to be much more effective at the technical level. So that's really what our team has been focused on recently.
Awesome. Thanks. Alyssa?
Perfect. So I will have a slightly different story to tell for my first thing. Because I come from a slightly unique, different way into this position. I started with the government as part of their work experience program, which is a 2-year program where you rotate through every team in the division, meaning that during my 2 years, I did everything from policy to vulnerability management to incident response, and of course the CTI team, which at the time kind of transitioned from being something that was more reporting, because we had the word reporting at the end of our team name, and then is now a little bit more into the CTI stuff. But throughout that experience, I actually got to work on the teams that ingest the CTI reports, indicators, the prioritization items. And then I ended up getting to work on the team, well, on the CTI team that is making those items. So I got to see it from both ends, which was a very unique perspective to see how that process worked in the government, as well as just within the teams themselves. And then it got me really interested in the area of CTI, threat intelligence, just knowing what's out there in the news. And then as I got hired on not full-time, but permanently, that's the area that I decided I wanted to work in. And now I work in CTI, but also awareness and training. So because CTI in the government of Alberta is very external facing, it's under Cyber Alberta, we create reports and we give it to the greater community of interest. I then take any kind of indicators that we found internally and turn that into internal awareness for the actual government employees. There's a phishing campaign, and we find some novel IOCs. That report gets sent out to the community of interest, but then also we have a, hey, don't click on this alert that comes from me for the other employees, because we found that we create all this intelligence requirements, but are we actually telling our own employees what to not do? And just kind of, instead of falling back on the typical cybersecurity training, actually showing them with proper examples of what it can look like on what not to do. And we found it incredibly valuable to kind of do it this way. Our CTI team is relatively new in its current state. Again, it used to be more reporting, and now we're trying to get into more actual intelligence gathering and sharing, especially using Cyber Alberta to collect that from the wider audience within Alberta and all the different organizations, and collect it and actually give something of value, not only that's shared internally in the government, but also to all other organizations in Alberta. So we found it incredibly valuable. I found it valuable, and I've only been really working with this team for the last 5 months-ish officially, but of course with the government for the last 2.5.
Awesome, thank you. Prashant?
Okay, that made me some time to think about my answer. So we always stand on the shoulders of giants, is what I believe in. There have always been people and SMEs who have came past us to a point where we have this field, what we call cyber threat intelligence. I'm a bit of a philosophical and a strategic person, so I look at the word cyber threat intelligence. What does it mean? It means intelligence related to cybersecurity. We always had spycraft in our world. We always had intelligence in our armies and our defense across the board. We are bringing that understanding, that concept into the world of cybersecurity. One other thing, as I mentioned, if knowledge does not make you humble, but makes you proudful, that knowledge is wasted. Information is power, knowledge is power, wisdom is power. Hopefully information makes you knowledgeable, which ultimately makes you wiser. If it doesn't make you wiser, then it's lost. Now you'd be like, why is he ranting about wisdom related to cyber intelligence? Because intelligence at the end of the day is about understanding what's important to you as an organization. I look at the word intelligence or threat from a perspective of risk management 101. Just a plug to Michael, I could see him in the audience there. What a great keynote today around risk, right? You need to understand, we always look around risk. A very wise person once told me, why cybersecurity is important. So, I gave him an analogy the way I understand. Like, you're running a vehicle. Why do you have brakes in a vehicle? So that you can avoid accidents. Having a brake in a vehicle would make you run faster or make you run slower. It'll give you the confidence to run faster and accelerate because you have a brake. That's why cybersecurity is in our industry, because it gives the organizations the confidence to take risks down the road for their business, benefit for that matter. Now, on the risk portion, risk is what? Threat, impact, vulnerability, likelihood of those vulnerabilities being exposed. The word threat is being focused in the term cyber threat intelligence. If we know what our threats are in our industry or in our sector, then we can focus on security controls, on our cyber postures related to those threats. A threat 1 may not be applicable to business 2. Threat 1 may be applicable to business 1. Let me give a context related to me working in Enbridge and in the oil and gas sector. 33% of oil and gas flows through Alberta. I don't know how many of you know that, at least actually from Edmonton in the pipeline alley. 33% of oil and gas of North America, 1/3 of it flows through Edmonton. A city which I have been living for 18 years, and I thought nobody knows in the geographical map the city even exists for many people in the world. With that context, now you can see, at least in the critical infrastructure space where I come from, we attend many DNG, ISAC, FBI, DHS, INGA, HEA. There are various organizations, CISA updates, etc. End of the day, it's about understanding what your threats are, how they can impact your business outcomes, and ultimately, to my fellow panelists' point of view, the leaders, and give them the assurance that we are doing the right things. Another wise leader once told me, if you have $1, you need to spend it on 2 priorities. What are you going to do? Make your choice. We have limited resources. Those limited cyber resources have to put to secure our businesses, and hence threat intelligence helps you identify and prioritize your cybersecurity towards the goals which are important, because now you know your threats, for good or for bad, which are impacting your sector and your industry. And then you can take actions accordingly. So that's how I feel it, more from a strategic and a tactical perspective. At the operational level, we can go on and on around IOCs and IOAs and and all that stuff. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Prashant. So anybody has any CTI-related question? Michael, you want to take a... Okay, microphone. It's coming.
I hope he's not ticked off by me calling him up.
Oh, no. This is good. I'll be honest, I was planning to troll you guys, but I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, what kind of questions would stump a cyber threat intelligence panel? And Liam and I here scrolled through all of them. We were like, these are actually really good. So I want to ask you one that I think this is a great question. What's the one class of threat actor you're pretty sure exists, but you have no visibility into? And I don't take credit for that. The computer came up with that, but I thought that was a really good question.
So
that's
I can take that on, Michael. So first of all, hopefully that ChatGPT didn't give you those kittens you showed it in your presentation. They actually gave you good questions to ask. So I'll just go with it. I work in critical infrastructure. I'm always worried about nation-state actors. I can go on, but you do not know many things. You don't know about what they know about your systems. In critical infrastructure, there's a methodology which I subscribe to called consequence-driven cyber-informed engineering, which basically goes around the term. You can Google it. It's an Idaho National Lab artifact. But it goes by the way that consequences are important on the ground, and your adversary would know enough or even more about the technology you use in your own systems, because they can mimic those technologies in their own environments, in their own lab environments. Nation-state actors, right? They have enough money, resources, powers, financial wherewithal to create the exact same conditions of technology. How many of us could be, hey, I'm using Windows 10. Nobody knows that I'm using Windows 10, right? It's very easy to understand that. Where comes the defender's advantage is another concept which says that, but I know how I use my technology to bring those outcomes. That is probably unique to me, for a university, for an oil and gas company, for any other business. I'm using it probably differently for a different business purpose. Somebody could be using the same technology for a different purpose. That's where my defender's advantage comes, where I could find ways how I can safeguard my systems to a threat adversary. But nation-state actors, they're always a step ahead, and we're always a step behind it. It's a cat and mouse game, and we continue to follow that. So that'll be my answer.
I look at this, I'm going to change it a little bit, not threat actor, but like a threat place is like actually when you think about third-party risk, it's not the third party itself, it's actually the technology behind the third party that a lot of us do not know anything about. So for example, recently in the news, there's like lots of impacts on NPM packages. Well, like how many of those of your SaaS solutions are using those packages? And we just do not know. And we do not know also how well that they are tracking these risks and threats as well. And so I think big blind spot. Like, and you hear about SBOMs and the thing, like how many of us actually ask for bill of materials for our vendors?
So my perspective, my 2 cents here, I think that's one of the key things. We don't know the dependencies of the dependencies, and then the attack surface goes just insane, right? And we don't know what the other guys have on their studies, or they know how to do something. They're just waiting for the right time. And I think that's the overwhelming part from a defense standpoint. Awesome.
I actually have a quite literal answer to Michael's question, which threat actors do we not know were in the environment? To me, that's espionage. How would you know? They're there to sneak, to espionage. So, of course, we wouldn't know if they're in there or not until it's too late.
Thank you. Any next questions? Adam? Oh, sorry. Yep, you go. It's okay. You go next.
Thank you. And I didn't ask ChatGPT to help me frame these questions. My question is about threats related to AI, specifically privacy. It seems to me this is keeping me up at night. It seems to me that a lot of people are giving away their personal information, and I'm wondering what kind of threats do you see specifically as it regards the how we are feeding AI with our pictures to create these figurines and stuff. What is the threats that you see, and what would be the impact for individuals? I know, like the younger generation, they would say, like, I don't care. But so what can we tell them to that? What is the impact from those threats?
Anybody want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take it. First of all, I mean, AI is proliferating, and there was a very good talk today by Saif Azwar. I don't know if he's in the audience today. He talked about responsible AI and topics around prompt engineering. We can go on and on, topics around privacy and how it can be proliferated. You can look AI models. You can say, hey, can I manipulate the model, or can I look at the output prompt? Can I do that? So you can go technical into it. End of the day, I think I come from a school of thought around privacy that, you know, unfortunately, whatever you do, and you cannot remain private for very long. There have been so many systems out there, so many things we have already put on the internet, that it is hard to claim privacy on everything. Don't take me wrong that we shouldn't do, or we shouldn't put guardrails around our private information. But I am of the school of thought, if you ever heard of Bruce Schneider, he is a very good expert in cybersecurity. He has a blog on privacy, schmivacy, get over it, you know, and he'll give you his argument around why privacy is dead. But AI will proliferate it much further. End of the day, I still belong to the school of thought that it is too far down that we'll have terminators. We are still out here where we'll have metrics and we'll have control over it. And as humans, we should always have human in the loop, and so that they can validate. Otherwise, we are definitely going into the human Armageddon, and that'd be great.
One thing I would add is I think it's actually an old problem that's been across, even before AI, is really data security and data privacy. AI has made it maybe impact faster, but in reality, we've had to protect data for a long time. How many people have sent an email to the wrong spot, and there's no controls in place to stop that? That's release of information into a place that's not. So most companies, the problem is actually most companies haven't solved that problem, let alone trying to solve it with AI now. So that's actually going to be a big issue moving forward. So
I'll give you one very simple example, then I'll stop. I like speaking a lot, but anyway. The AI incident database, go check it out. In that, you check out deepfakes and check out the 2023 March incident of Pentagon being bombed. It was a deepfake which went in. There are many other incidents on that database. It'll blow your mind how AI is being used these days. But that one literally caught my eye when I was doing a presentation. Pentagon got bombed, deepfake video went online, stock markets did a crash in 20 minutes. People did a put in, you know, those who do calls and puts, who know how options trading work, they made enough money, they went out of the market. Literally in 20 minutes, you become millionaires and billionaires because AI is now becoming such a proliferation technology, and we can't validate what we don't know. So you saw, hey, Pentagon got bombed. Hey, things are going down fast, right? So.
I'll just take it to say that I don't have anything to add to what Prashant and Chris have said. I was going to say the same thing as Chris. It's the same problem we've always had, what we still have. It's just AI is just another method of putting in your data, and should be thought of that way. You know, it may enhance it, but in the end, it's the same problem of data security. What's the risk? Fraud. What's the risk? Fraud. Your identity being stolen, passwords being cracked, your security questions being known because you put in that your home address is whatever, that you went to whatever school, that your favorite animal is a dog. It's the same problem. It's just another method in which it's being added into.
I'll break it down into, for me at least, two parts. Online privacy is just, I don't believe in it. It's if it's online, if you really want private, don't put it online. The second one is, I think from a CTI standpoint, AI will become as a big of a either eye opener or problem from an attack standpoint. That down the line, and you can quote me, I can be wrong, but you can quote me on that. We're going to have a MITRE attack for AI, like we have the one for regular operating systems, OT now, RCS, mobile. We're going to have one for AI, not too many years. It's going to be something in the next few years. Any other ones?
Yes.
The microphone is.
Aha. I'm not going to stand because Chris told me I wasn't allowed to talk.
Fair
Tried
enough.
to put a muzzle on me. The consumer's caveat, good, fast, and cheap, you can only pick two of the three, okay? So, which leaves us, CTI is intended to allow us to get somebody to do something that reduces our risk, our probability or impact. So then it leaves a choice. Do we be fast with the recommendations we're making from CTI, or do we be right? How does that work in any of your organizations? Would you rather be fast, or would you rather be right if you could only pick one of the two?
I've always been on the side of right. So for me, right would mean, again, I can give the lens, Adam, from a perspective of working for a critical infrastructure organization. Safety is paramount and critical from a human perspective when we run our pipelines or when we run our refineries and whatnot. And human life, unfortunately, does not have a probability. Either you are alive or you are not alive. So if you are taking steps, whether from a CTI perspective or cyber in general, it's very important, at least in my sector, to be right rather than to be fast. We could put brakes, take our time, and do the right thing according. When I say right, it may not mean 100%. Do our due diligence to the extent possible to not let those outcomes come out when human lives are at stake. So that's my take on being right.
I agree with that because definitely being fast can actually cause more problems to your organization. A good example, say we get an IOC, oh, they're using Cloudflare to attack us. Oh, let's block Cloudflare. Well, just imagine how much impact you could have on your entire organization. Like, it's really about getting it right. I've actually, one of the things I talk to my team a lot about is quality over quantity, and really to get the quality, and then actually then frees up time even to look at things. But again, if you do it wrong, it can actually maybe even cause more harm than the threat actors themselves.
We also try to be more right, especially as Cyber Alberta, creating intelligence reports that get sent out to the broader Alberta audience. Getting them right is quite important. But we also try to get it fast. Obviously, intelligence that we create for other Alberta organizations isn't always relevant to everyone, but that's up to each organization and how they ingest it. But if we are wrong in the information that we put out there, doesn't exactly fare well to the government, of course.
Thank you. Next, where's the microphone?
Looking at CTI from a traditional intelligence lens, the source of most CTI today is ELINT, or electronics intelligence based. I'm wondering if the panel has any thoughts on whether there's a place for a reemergence of the HUMINT or human intelligence sources in the generation of cyber intelligence going forward?
Great question. Alone, just the human element, maybe not. And then it will be more on the like military side, or things that are they don't need necessarily the technology element to it. I think we still, as an industry, we still rely or use a lot undercovered personnel trying to uncover what the, so it's like the modern, I don't know, 007 kind of person going after threat actors and monitoring. If they get like their trust first, we still use that quite a bit. Hard sometimes for government entities, and the threat actors know that. They, for example, they charge like a sign-up fee, for example. So with that alone, they cut like government entities out of that loop. But they're from a like a overall industry standpoint, we still use that espionage approach to go after the guys that are going after us down the line. That's just.
I think at a corporate level, we don't have the resources or the time to do a human element side. I do think hopefully like governments, like federal government, definitely take that into consideration, and hopefully through their programs can able to send that information down to us, right? Versus me having to do human side of it, it'd be very tough.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I mean, there's a problem of attribution in intelligence, right? Who or where does that thing come from? And obviously, cyber means cannot be perfect because of reasons that you are sitting in Canada. You could be hacked by somebody in Russia, China, wherever. So there is an element there, to Chris's point, that we could have, at the government level, have some spy intelligence to try to pinpoint where some of those threat actors might be coming from. You may have all heard of botnet takedowns by Microsoft, the big likes. They do a bit of, sharing of knowledge and information among law enforcement agencies across the Five Eyes spectrum to try to nail down where some of those botnets might be coming from and nail down the actual actors out there. In fact, APT 21 report, which came out, which was a long time back by, I believe it was Mandiant, if I'm not mistaken, did identify actual cyber actors from the PLA unit 42 or 41, which was impacting, I think, one of the news medias at that time. That's how I understand some of these threat intelligence reports, where they do pinpoint actual individuals from where they come from. But it needs a lot of wherewithal for people and company and at the nation state levels to do that. For normal corporations, I think we'll always be at the defensive posture. I also subscribe to the thought, whether offense would ever be a best defense. But we don't have the wherewithals, at least in the corporate sector, to do that. Governments might have that resources.
And in the end, it's also prioritization. Is it actually going to give you value or not? And if the answer is no, lower on your priority side, because in the end, we're talking cybersecurity, and prioritizing what is going to give you the highest value and what you can get should be on your highest priority for corporates.
Hi, I just wanted to piggyback off the previous question. I think there was a statement around leveraging CTI to motivate teams to do something. Maybe I'm interested to learn how you can share best practices across how you take CTI and work with the extended teams within your organizations to actually take that human element and look at vulnerability management, incident response, remediation. What are some best practices you've seen in your organization to make sure that response time is fast, but everyone involved within the whole team is taking action?
I'll start. So our organization, we've looked at exposure management. So really dealing with vulnerability management, but actually using threat intelligence to help drive what priorities to deal with, right? So in the space, you're actually starting to see a lot of things like vulnerability data tied to MITRE ATT&CK technique. We can then, so to step back, we can get threat intelligence. We can then take that data, give it to like our vulnerability management team to fix, but also we can give that to our detection engineering team to make sure that we have detection logic in place to actually respond to those threats. And then we can actually even test it across the organization to provide like really strong proof to our leaders of going, hey, this threat came in, we've validated that, hey, yes, we have a vulnerability, but we also have this control that's designed to protect that threat, and we have the detection logic in place to detect if that threat becomes realized. That is a good story that you can tell your leaders to say, hey, we are actually protected. And it allows you also then, not from a vulnerability management perspective or even a detection logic perspective, is you're not actually wasting time on maybe the ones that are actually not going to provide any risk to your organization.
At the government, the cyber intelligence team has something we call the triage board, and we basically take in news that we see. I spend like an hour, 30 minutes of my day kind of reading the news. Okay, is it something that we have in our environment? If it's yes, we kind of go through a little checklist of things. Okay, where do we put that in priority? And we put a card on our triage board and then assign it a team. So if it's a vulnerability, we assign it to the vulnerability team, and then they have their own process to like check the triage board and deal with the cards that we add in. And then aside from that, we also have bi-weekly sharing meetings with all the teams in cyber, and the threat intel team talks about intelligence that we've seen, or maybe some triage cards that have not yet been dealt with, and we just have a conversation with those teams on where they see the priority, where we see the priority, and then discuss it within so that that gets resolved if we saw it as a high priority but they didn't, and just have a better understanding of what each team requires and adapt. It's all about kind of adapting for us, adapting to what each team needs, adapting to their new processes if they have changed their processes, and providing intelligence that matches their, intelligence requirements. So there's a lot of work that we do to working with those teams, determining what their intelligence requirements are, what their priority intelligence requirements are, and providing them their triage cards with items that they can actually action in the time that we deem high, low, medium, low for priority. So that's something that has been working for us, and we will kind of continue to do so. But again, as different teams change, we will also change with them.
Can I just build off that? One thing that we haven't fully implemented yet, but we're good, is the idea of taking external threat intelligence, but also internal threat intelligence that would then funnel over to our GRC teams, which allow to go, hey, are these controls even are we putting in the right controls for these applications and stuff like that? Really getting them more effective as well. So it's just not even external, again, internal threat intelligence as well.
Yeah, I'll just make it quick. So I see it, people could be in different levels of maturity in their CTI program. I see it more from a people, process, technology perspective, right? So first is you have to give safe space to people who would like to come into this field of threat intelligence. SOC analysts, IR analysts are a bit separate from threat intelligence. They can leverage those skills to come into this field. So you have to create a bit of that safe space for them to play, to experiment, to do what's called threat hunting as one of the ways to look at things. Use open source to the extent possible. Like, don't just focus every time on using closed source systems. You have to pay a hefty amount of money. You can learn skill sets using open source technologies in safe labs, whether personally in their own homes or in your work environment, if you could pull that through. So that's the people aspect, making sure that they have the skills, or you give them that safe space and time and attention and effort to bring that talent up. Then comes the technology. Technology, as I said, could be open source depending on your budgetary constraints and whatnot, or you could buy closed source technologies or even threat feeds from many angles. There are many things. Information is sharing, information is power. There are many organizations who would provide you the capability and the platforms to ingest and learn threat feeds. Public Safety Canada, they have sector-wise information ISACs which you can subscribe to. US has many, CISA and others, DNG ISAC, ONG ISAC. These are ISACs, cyber threat intelligence feeds. So those are some platforms you could subscribe to from a technology perspective to get an idea, internal intelligence or external. And then the process is important. You have technology. There's a reason why I call it PPT. It's people, process, technology. It's not PowerPoint, by the way. It's people first, process next, technology last. A fool with a technology is still a fool, right? it's important that technology can only augment you, but it's the people, their skill set, and if you can build processes around SOC, around threat feeds, intelligence. So it takes a time, it takes a village to make this field, but you can always start. Start somewhere, start small. Take the first baby step, and I'm sure you will go past.
And maybe shameful plug here. For the podcast, I think it's fair to say the vast majority of the interviews I did, everybody is concerned about how we offer value upstream. So it's CTI teams in general will tend to be like the nerds kind of thing. So it's not the most comfortable zone to really like sell the value of your team upstream. But if you don't do that, at some point when they need to cut costs, top down, it might be impacted. So it's a really important topic within most of the people I was interviewing for the podcast. Thank you. Where's the microphone? Okay.
We have a question here. I think too much, and I'll start that and I've been in cybersecurity for 30 years of my life. It seems to me that we're at the infancy of cyber threat intelligence, and that we're really looking at it from a systems perspective and a systematic approach. Industry, I'm an Industry 4.0 expert. Industry is really going towards digitization of absolutely everything and moving from analog processes to digital processes. And as we digitize this, do you think that there's an opportunity for cyber threat intelligence along with vulnerability management to be tied to business outcome processes? So being able to tie standard operating procedures and SOPs digitally, so that when an analyst is looking at something from a technical perspective at a system level, that they understand the outcome to the business impact, right? What is going to impact the business because of a potential vulnerability to the machine. The other side of this question is that vulnerability management is only really effective if we inventory all of our assets and we understand the criticality of those assets. And so if we can tie the criticality to business processes, do you guys see this as a direction in CTI?
I'll take it if you don't mind. So great question, Michelle, by the way. I think you have hit, in my opinion, the North Star of where CTI should go. We are probably not there. I mean, I made a comment when I started the CTI panel, risk is, threats versus vulnerabilities, exposure, as you just mentioned. So you have expanded that equation not just based on threats, which is what CTI is, but into whether those CTI analysts need to understand the business impact, the exposure of those assets and the exposure of those vulnerabilities. And it's a great point because CTI analysts, in my opinion, should understand their actions or the actions of the threat actors could have impact of the business to which they are serving. You can't just sit in a silo and figure out, hey, these actors are doing what. So it has to expand down. I'll take it a step further from a CTI to doing a risk assessment of sorts. Use that as an input, having a concept of those assets or impacts, and an overall risk assessment, and not just CTI analysts, I would say cyber in general, if you could use those CTI concepts, but ingest it into doing that risk assessment, that would be great. I mean, are we there yet? In my opinion, probably we have work to do there.
Yeah, just great comments again. I'll just add that that's probably an area that I hope it goes to as well. Coming from a business background, business student, that's definitely kind of sometimes what I think about, but of course you're kind of stuck in processes, and I think Michael Spaulding said it this morning, you got to take risks to kind of push that change, and perhaps it is a change because in the end what gets things done, the business side, who makes the decisions, the business side, and you have to appease and show the value to the business side, so kind of transforming it to that side is definitely a way to evolve CTI as a whole.
One thing I'll think, just to add to that, is like it really allows your business to make business decisions if we have good threat intelligence that can go up to the board, even the business leaders, to allow them to make that. We try to keep threat intelligence typically like, oh, we're only providing it to our staff or our leader, our direct leaders, but what about like the business leaders across the entire organization that are making risks, especially maybe if you're in a corporate world where you're doing like mergers and acquisitions and stuff like that, that can really help you make a proper business decision and get a good outcome. And that's where I don't think we're even seeing much of that yet from a cyber perspective. Actually, but it is actually also impacting, one thing also from a business impact, I've had the opportunity to sit earlier this year with our finance department, and because we were meeting out with the credit agencies, I'm talking about like cybersecurity and the impact to our credit rating. Well, if we have good intelligence that allows us to maintain a good credit rating, that allows our business to be much more effective as well. So really linking that up into those processes, I actually do see where we can see the next step. And how do we get there? I think we have to figure that out. And so we'll see where that goes.
Do you have time for one last question?
I have a microphone and they gave it to me, unfortunately. So I was wondering, so internal threat intelligence was spoken about earlier. I was just wondering if you all could comment on your processes for data collection, threat intelligence internally in order to make that actionable, in addition to all the external threat feeds, external threat intelligence sources that you're collecting, et cetera.
Oh, sorry. One of the big things that we've been working on is really around our data pipeline. A lot of things, it's actually more than threat intelligence. This is sort of like AI analytics and stuff like that, is really being able to collect data and then store. We're actually looking about building a bit like a data lake, and then being able to analyze across that. Actually leads to a bit of skills that I think in the threat intelligence space that we're looking for. We're actually looking for people with data science and data analytical skills to join our team to then be able to analyze that data, to look at all the incidents or things that have happened within our organization, put that together and go, hey, maybe this is a threat. Or maybe we can actually combine an incident that happened like 6 months ago, a month ago, 2 days ago, that, hey, we're actually now being targeted by a single target, and then being able to report that up to drive a lot of the decisions. So really it both starts at the beginning in Maya though, is actually building a proper pipeline to get all the data that we do need to be able to do that work.
We're trying. The intelligence team for the government is new for its current state, and we have it in our maturity level to try to build that up, because right now everything that's come from internal has been by chance. I've come across from this phishing email by chance, and it evolved into this big phishing campaign that we discovered. Do we have a proper process right now? No, but we're trying to set that up. We've been trying different things, Excel, GitHub, but it's something that we are trying to mature right now because it is incredibly important. I've been told to stop.
Be cognizant of the time.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all.